In our previous videos, we have seen how to write tests using Jest. And here you can see that we are writing a function named add and we are exporting it from here. And when you want to write test for this, what we are doing here is first we require the add function and we are writing multiple tests here. Here you can see it is throwing some error. Why is the error coming? Because of ESLint. We are using ESLint and here it is saying expect is not defined. It means that the function test and expect that we are using here is not defined. But these are directly coming from Jest, right? So these are global functions. So how will you take care of this when you're using ESLint? So the way you should do that is here inside the environment, you just need to define what all different things you're using. So you're saying, I'm using some browser functionality, CommonJS, Node, ES 2021. Similarly, all you have to do is to add jest/global to be true. What it will make is, now if you go back here, because of this environment that you've defined here, it can understand that test and expect is globally defined. And that's why we have access to that. So error is gone. Let's come back to our thing. So we are writing test here. We are exporting from here using Module.exports is equal to add. Here we can import that and then write multiple tests here. Similarly, we are doing the same thing here for sub. We are defining the function here, exporting it using Module.exports. Here we are importing it using require and we are writing multiple tests. But there are a lot of conditions when you want to write multiple functions inside the same file. So how will you export that? So for that, let us go ahead, create another file named calculator. And in this file, what I'm going to do, I'm going to define multiple functions. So first one will be add. Second is going to be sub. So now we have two functions. So when you were having just one function, what you were doing is Module.exports. And because you have only one function to export, this kind of export is known as default export. So by default, you are exporting this function named add, and that is the same function you're importing it here. So you don't have to do anything. But what if I have to export multiple functions? In the case here, we have to export add and sub. So to do that, we use the same syntax. We are going to use Module.exports. But the difference is, rather than exporting just individual function, we are going to export an object. From here, we can say, I want to export add and subtract. Now, this is what you're exporting. What if you want to write test and import that inside calculator, calculator.test.js? You want to import add and sub from here, right? So the way you do that is by using const calculator is equal to require, and here you say dot slash where you're importing it from, calculator. Now, what do you think will happen here? Calculator is an object because from here we are exporting an object. So calculator is an object. What if we want to write test similar to the one we are writing here? So I'll just copy this here and we'll paste it here. But we cannot use add directly. How we will use it? So we'll go ahead, select all of them, and rather than just saying add, because we know that calculator here is an object, so we can say calculator.add, because calculator is an object. Inside that we have a function named add. Similarly, when you want to use sub, you can just copy the test of sub from here, paste it here. So instead of using sub, you'll say calculator.sub. Now, after writing all these tests, let's go ahead and execute npm t. It will execute the test and we will see the result of all this in next couple of seconds. And here we can see all the tests, including calculator, is 100% tested here. So in that way, what we got to understand is whenever you have to export multiple functions from a single file, the way to do that is by using Module.exports. And here, instead of sending an individual function, we are sending an object that contains multiple functions. And when you're importing it, you will import the object. And here you can just say calculator.add and calculator.sub. And what you can also do is remove this part, and here instead of importing calculator object, you can destructure it at the same place. So this will give you an object. From that object, I need access to add and sub. Here what you're doing is known as destructuring. How it works is you have an object, you say user is an object, and it has a property name that is John. What if I need access to name? So the way you do that is you say let name is going to be user.name. So this is one way of doing that. What you can do, you can make it short by saying I want to access name from this user and store it in a variable called name. So these two lines are equivalent, and that is exactly what you're doing. You're saying I'm defining a variable named add, and from this object I'm getting access to a property named add and storing it inside the variable. The same is happening with sub. So if you compare them, here you're defining a variable named name, and the property name is also name. So you can just say, go ahead, define a variable named name and access the property of name from user and store it here. This is known as destructuring. So you can also do this, and here you can see all the test is passed. So we learned about default export that we were doing here, where you're just exporting one function, and when you import this, you don't have to destructure it or get an object. But when you export multiple functions in the form of object, you will have to do it here.